Unfortunately, none of my exes have hot dads, so here we are. Hi, I'm Mel, and this is Romance Unleashed, and today we have Estelle.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you.
Estelle, who are you?
How am I?
Who are you?
Who am I?
How am I is a different, tougher question that we'll get to later.
Well, my name is Estelle, and I am the Director of Marketing and Publicity at Forever, which is an imprint of Hachette. We publish mostly romance.
And we love it.
And we love it. And we publish Abby Jimenez and Kennedy Ryan and some amazing, amazing authors.
What was your journey to getting to the job you have now?
That is a really long story.
I want to hear all of it.
Well, when I went to school, I majored in writing. I thought that I wanted to go into editorial, which I feel like is everyone's story. Everyone thinks that they want to be an editor.
And do you really want to be an editor? Because you have to
you have to do math.
Do you?
You have to do a lot of math, and I wish editorial has a great PR person because nobody realizes that how much math they have to do. And I think most people actually really want to go into marketing and publicity because you do writing there. And a little bit of math if you're lucky like me. But less math than the editorial staff. So you heard it here first.
Editorial is math.
Editorial is math. It really is.
That sounded like meth. Just to be correct. It's math, but
math.
not meth.
Yes. So I went to school for writing. I thought I wanted to go into editorial. Nothing really worked out at all. I was working at a real estate office. I was doing marketing and I really liked it, but then I got laid off right when I graduated. Had a lot of trouble finding a job, and I ended up getting a job at a search firm that specialized in publishing. So they would help they would work with Hachette to help them find a CEO or a director of marketing. So basically, I started working there because they said, be here for a year and we'll help you get a job in publishing. And I was like, okay, great. And then the recession hit, and then there were no jobs. And I was doing well there, and I'm like, I have no reason to leave for right now. So I stayed for 6 years. And basically, I was editing resumes. I was an office manager. I have a lot of customer service experience because I worked in retail so much in high school. So I really loved being with people. But during that time, I started blogging, blogs way back when, and I started writing about...
Wait, I think blogs are making a comeback.
I know!
They have started, resurfacing again, and I'm like, are we,
I've heard this.
life journaling again?
I love this, and I'm happy, and I hope it happens. I started blogging with someone I met at a wedding. She was a photographer at my best friend's wedding. She loved books, and then I don't know why I do this. I was like, let's be best friends and start a book blog when we get back. She lived in Texas. I was in New Jersey, and that was just what we did. And I started working with authors, working with PR people from publishing, and that was sort of also how I got back into romance. And then I realized, wait a minute, could this actually be a job? And I went on some informational interviews, and finally I had really close runs at my first job. So even if it was something that wasn't really fulfilling in the way that I always wanted my job to be, I had a really good circle of people, but then everybody started leaving. And I'm like, okay, this is the time to make this dive into a new thing. And I ended up getting a job at an academic publisher. I was doing publicity. It was the hardest job ever. I thought I was going to get hired every week.
Publicity for academic.
It was really supposed to be the type of books that a regular reader could pick up. So they weren't super academic, but they were. But I loved it. And I think it was so great that it wasn't something I was necessarily a fan of. It taught me a lot about there's a book for everyone.
Right.
And it was a great foundation.
Yeah.
And I loved getting the high of a publicity hit for something like that. It really it was so exciting to me. But I was also always thinking with my marketing mind. I had always wanted to work with kids' books. That's what I did after that. And then I actually got a job that combined both publicity and marketing, which is sort of rare in the publishing world.
Yeah.
And then the Forever job popped up pretty soon after that. And it was publicity and marketing together, and it just felt so perfect. And it was going to bring me back to romance, which I love so much. And I've been there for 8 years. So that's a long story, sorry.
Yeah, so let's backtrack to high school.
Oh god, okay.
Did you grow up in New Jersey?
I did grow up in New Jersey,
Okay.
yeah.
What was your favorite retail job in high school?
Unshockingly, I worked at the Disney store.
Yes. If you don't know Estelle, you're getting to know her now, and
Yes.
you will know that she is a Disney adult.
Yes. I also worked at CVS for a really long time, and I feel like one of my massive, like, love stories from high school happened because of CVS, so it's always, like, very important to me.
Okay, can we hear the massive love
Oh my gosh.
story?
I'm sure I guess I could talk about it. Sure. I mean, honestly, so everyone who worked at CVS was pretty young, and my boss who started working there was like maybe a few years older than me, and I remember like the first time I walked in and I saw him, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And it was like a big part of my high school time is just like being there, like working with him, and also he had a girlfriend at the time. And it became just like this long, dramatic, drawn out thing.
We love it.
Oh my gosh, we once went to a Barnes and Noble because our other boss sort of leaked that the girlfriend was a little concerned about me or something like this. I can't believe I'm telling this story. I've told it online before. It's fine. And so we're like, okay, let's go like have a chat. So we ended up going to the Barnes and Noble that I still go to this day. And we like sat in Barnes and Noble and had this like really like deep conversation, and I was like, oh gosh, I just like really love this man. Oh man. And it just was this like, again, like this long drawn out thing. So every time I go to a CVS, like I have to laugh. Like it really didn't end well, honestly. Like we had like, it went through like my first few years of college. It was really complicated and really dramatic. But whew, like sometimes when I read a romance novel, I just like remember. It's actually funny because I wish that I had romance novels more during that time, because I think I would have, there's so much that I've learned since then about myself just by reading them that I wish I would have been able to really tap into when I was in high school and in college, especially with that relationship where I don't think that I stood up for myself enough. Why am I getting emotional? And like he was a great person, but he had a lot going on, and I just think that I wish that I had like something else to tap into, to know how to handle anything, because nobody else was like dating their boss from CVS who had a girlfriend. I mean, we didn't, guys. He didn't have the girlfriend when we dated, I promise.
But there was that complication.
For sure. It was a lot.
Yeah. Especially for
I'm
a
just
young.
telling you everything. Look at you.
Love it.
It's like
Oprah. This is like therapy.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah, and I mean, they say you have like 3 different loves in your life. Like you have your first love, you have like the one who got away, or like that like impossible love, and then you have like your forever, and they're all such pivotal points in your life.
I think that's totally true, and I mean, I've been with my husband for almost 20 years now, and I am like,
oh my god, we need to listen to that love story too.
He's like the absolute best human in the world, and I'm so lucky, especially in this job that can be so demanding. He's literally my rock in every way and is so supportive and amazing, and I'm so incredibly lucky. And it's so, again, when you read those like romance novels and you see like all of the things that people go through to get there, and then they get to this relationship where they can just like be nerdy with each other, or like read next to each other before bed and have that kind of life together, it means so much to me to see, because it is so real. And
I agree with what you said about like having those books when we were younger, because I mean, I feel like the YA is top notch right now, and it was not the books we were getting when we were younger. And I feel like a lot of the things I experienced when I was in high school and like doing all my high school things, like me and my mom didn't talk about those things, you know, like the best I had was my brother, and my brother was like, let me just teach you how to drink. So like, I mean, like a plus, but like my guy, I'm heartbroken over here. But like now I feel like they have that, and that gives me like, I always like, people shit on YA for whatever reason all the time, and I'm like, sure, the books are gonna read younger, right? And they are, but like it like soothes something in my like little child Melissa that like needed to hear those things. But also like how to navigate relationships, and I feel like sometimes that is something that's like taken away from romance, and like when we don't give romance credit, like sure you're reading for sex scenes or smut or whatever it is, right? But like you're also being taught how to like navigate such difficult conversations and such real things that happen to everyone. Like, and I feel like there's even this thing where like people are like romance is unrealistic, but I'm like, but is it? Because really what romance is asking is the bare minimum from basically everyone. So is it unrealistic, or like are we just not ready to meet those expectations? And that's why we're shitting on romance. But anyway,
I think we all deserve more than we think we do or project out into the world. And if romance can make people realize that that's the truth and that they deserve so much more than they're actually maybe getting in that moment or in their life, I mean, to me that's why the genre is so powerful.
Right.
And yes, you're exactly right, like great sex, all of this, like found family, all of these things.
Right.
But I really do think it's that like self-love journey that is the thing that gets me every single time and makes me feel like I can conquer the world after I read, like every time I read one, you know?
Yeah, I agree. So did you read romance? Did you read romance when you were young, or when did you read?
My mom
romance?
is a huge romance reader, and I just remember going to the library in the summer all the time, and they would have the mass markets out, and basically she would just like pick them from this like bookcase and throw them in a bag, and they would like count them, and then she would take them, and so I would start reading them. And we used to do these road trips from Jersey to Florida to go to Disney World, of course. And I would always just like steal her books to read, and that was really how I started getting into romance. And then I really took a step back from reading a lot. I think that was definitely just being busy in college.
Yeah.
I loved reading YA so much, but they were all romantic. Like Morgan Matson, Jenny Han, like they were writing Jennifer E. Smith, like they were writing such amazing YAs at the time. And then because I was writing and reviewing about YA, that was how someone was like, oh, hey, why don't you try a Susan Mallory small town romance? And I was like, okay, sure. And then that really got me back into it, and I could not stop. And then there was just so much more to discover, and it was right before I think Jasmine started writing, and I mean a wealth of amazing things.
Right. A wealth.
Definitely.
There's like so
oh my gosh, I know.
I also remember going to the library and like just grabbing like anything from the shelves. But really what I started reading was Darlene or Daniel
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
What's her name? Lurleen McDaniel.
Yes.
Oh my god. And are those YA?
I think so.
I think they're YA, but basically all of the kids were sick. And there was like they would like meet in the hospital because they were both going through like chemo, or like one was going through chemo and the other one was like the brother of somebody.
Happiest book ever.
And and like I just remember being in my little like twin size bed, like sobbing my eyes out, and my mom walking in, she's like and I'm like, he died, and she's like, who died? And I was like, the guy. She's like, what the fuck? And now I'm like, why was I reading such sad? Which is why we have an In My Crying Era shelf now, because like that's how I started, and like that's just how we're gonna keep going.
I mean, a good cry is important.
What's your favorite crying book?
Oh gosh, I mean, I think any Kennedy Ryan book.
Thank you.
I mean, there's no other answer.
Like literally,
no matter what's happening, and yes, there's a ton of joy, as she likes to remind everyone.
Oh
but
my
it's
god,
it's more a cathartic cry.
Absolutely.
I need it. Well, not all the time, but every time I'm picking one.
Yeah.
Perfect.
When I read Before I Let Go, I saw her, I think at Book Bonanza a couple weeks after, and I was like, I sobbed. And she was like, Melissa, why? It's such a happy book.
Oh my gosh.
She's like,
I can hear it in her voice.
And now she's like, that's not what I said. I said that it brought you joy. And I was like, no, ma'am. Respectfully, you said I should have been happy. And I mean, yes, there is joy, Kennedy. Like, there is a happily ever after. It's a beautiful story, but bitch, I cried. Like, you cannot tell me that I was not gonna cry. She was like, I thought this one wasn't gonna get people. And I'm like, how?
Oh my gosh. She says that all the time.
Yeah.
She says that all the time.
Yeah. I think she like really wants you to like sit with your happy feelings, but like the crying is cathartic. It's
Yeah,
like,
I think it's important. It's just as important as the happy part.
I agree.
Yeah.
So tell us about Disney. When was your first time going to Disney?
I think I was in 6th grade. I was always a huge Disney fan. Like, I remember in my room, I definitely had like Walt Disney World like framed posters in my room, and I had never been there and I didn't know anything about it. And then we ended up we were really good friends with this other family, and they were doing a road trip from Jersey to Florida, and they were like, hey, why didn't you all come with us? And that was what we did. And I was really not into it, actually. I was like, this is not for me. My sister and I are 5 years apart. She's younger than me, and I felt like it was mostly for her. But we all fell in love with it. Like, my parents still go like 2 or 3 times a year without us.
Wow.
Now. Like, it's a huge part of what we do and like what we love to talk about. And
That's lovely.
yeah, it's really, I don't know what it is. My sister and I just went like this past weekend together, and it was the first time we had ever gone on a vacation like that. But also it was just kind of healing after a really busy couple of months. To be there with her and
Then
to
we'll
kind
get
of
us to the how are you question.
Oh, yes. To be in a place that was so comfortable for both of us. She's had a lot going on too, and just like experience some of our favorite things together and try new things, and it was really lovely. And I think it's just like when you're reading, right? Like that sense of place. It's just comforting and feels like I can regroup there.
Yeah.
It's an expensive regrouping.
Yeah, definitely.
But also our hobbies are we like
yeah.
We spend a lot of money on things.
Is your sister also a reader?
No, not really. I'm always trying to convince her. I buy her books all the time. She's just the slower reader, and there are some things that she really, really likes, but so I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna work on it until the day I die, basically.
Does your mom still read romance?
Yeah, oh my gosh. She loves that I have this job. She loves reading Abby. She loves trying anything new I will give her.
I love that.
She loves a lot of our historical fiction. I always try to tell people my mom loved this, so obviously you will too. Yeah, so my mom's a massive reader. My dad not so much, but my mom still, yes.
Yeah, my mom is in her romantasy era right now.
Love it.
But in Spanish. So like
so great.
I keep trying to find books for her. She just figured out how to work Libby. Well, not really.
So fun.
I figured it out for her, and I downloaded the books she wanted, requested them, and like sent them to her Kindle. She's very excited about her romantasy journey.
I love that. Maybe my mom would definitely love romantasy. I really have to give her something. That's next on the list, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So you've been at Forever for 8 years.
I think so.
Okay. At what point did you decide to let go of the blog, or do you still have it?
No, we don't still have it. I don't really know when we decided to get rid of it. I think it got really complicated, and I think for a lot of creators who get into the industry, it's a really tough balance.
Agreed. 100%.
There's just too much there. I mean, even now personally, I have a lot of trouble sharing anything on social, and I use a lot of my creative fuel for work, which is a whole, we could talk about that for another hour. But also I need something for myself. Yeah. And I really don't necessarily feel I need to like share every thought I've ever had with the world either. And also I feel like in my job I really truly can. Yeah. It's a small world out there. Yes. And that's not just a Disney song. Like that is it's the truth. Yeah. Even just sharing things on Goodreads now, I don't add anything. I really don't do anything. Yeah. So the blog kind of ran its course anyway. And then there were like a few little side projects I had with other people. But then once I really started this job, it was just, it kind of was a collection of everything I ever wanted to do. Right. And I didn't feel I needed that creative outlet anymore. Yeah. And I don't know how I feel about that, because there are so many times that I want to do something. Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah. But also I need things that are not books. And I hate to say that, but it's true. Like, I really do.
Yeah, your life is right.
Oh my gosh.
Like, at some point it was that outlet, and like now it's also.
And now I have to find the other outlet, which I'm still searching for.
Same. Yeah. And I think something that we don't talk enough about is creators going into a professional space in where they started creating, I've shared a little bit about this on like threads and stuff, but I feel like we don't talk enough about what the sense of losing that community is,
yes.
because you're losing it.
Right.
And like I realized after Steamy LitCon that the reader space is not my space anymore.
Yes.
And that was a really hard pill to swallow, because I thought that's my community, right? But like now I'm on the other side of it.
Right.
And even like my hot takes, right? Like there are things that maybe I will speak about one day, but like that I hold back on a lot, because like now you're building these professional relationships that unfortunately and fortunately like you have to handle with care, because it is a very small world. But I don't think we talk enough about like that sense of losing it, and I see a lot of creators like going into the space and wanting to go into the space, but I don't know if they realize how much you actually lose. And it's not to deter you, like by all means, if that's your like dream and what you want to do, go for it. But my god, I think like post Steamy LitCon for like 4 or 5 months I was not okay, because like the book community was the first time that I felt like I found where I belonged truly. Like it was really the first place I feel like I'm home, you know. And now I'm like, and it doesn't mean you're not in it, but you're not like, and you have to learn how to navigate it.
It's true. It very much feels on the outskirts, and I've had this conversation with a few people recently where I wonder about my own spot in the community, because it really did, you know, start with me being in this job. Like I, you know, the reading community, the YA community, that was kind of where I started. The romance one didn't exist, like, or it did, and I just was not a part of it, but it's been something I've been learning about. And, you know, obviously I talk to a lot of people who are within it, and it feels that everyone is so welcoming and wonderful. You do really feel a part of it, but it's just, you can't experience it the same way. And I truly wonder like what would happen if I wasn't in this space anymore, and like what is my role? What is my role here? And that's a really hard thing to think about, because I truly care about this genre and these readers so much. Truly. It's more than just a job to me, which I'm sure everybody knows that I don't have to tell you. But and so, but I also realize like I can't be seen the same way as other people. I don't know the answers to any of these things, but the joy that the genre has given me, I think especially during the pandemic, and the people who like we have cultivated at forever, like they got me through that time.
Same.
And that's something I'll never forget.
Same.
And I don't know what that means, like as far as what my place is.
Right.
But I mean, I'll never just forget like the kindness of any of these people. Or openness. You know, we get so many emails from people who are like, I read this book and I experienced this thing. Or, I mean, people get very personal. They share a lot of information, and like that trust, I mean, it is very important to me to maintain. But it's hard to be like, I'm a part of it. Even just going to book signings and stuff, like that's something where I'm like, is that my spot to go just as a fan? And it's something that I really, especially this year, have been really struggling with, and I don't have the answer. I don't expect anyone to have the answer for me, because, you know, there are so many people that I love just on my own that I don't work with, and, you know, but it's like adds a whole new layer.
I agree. I find myself in a similar spot, like, and I love, like, even yesterday we had an Abby Jimenez event, and like seeing our staff like just be able to still be a reader was like a joy for me, because I don't have it anymore. You know what I mean? Like like you have your space but you don't, and it's like it's a weird dynamic to like dabble in. I don't know. I don't have the answer either. I guess I would say if I had any advice, I would just say like really think about that I don't think enough people are talking about prior to going into business, because it changes a lot of things. It
does. You see, there are a lot of things that we see that, you know, we can't talk about.
Absolutely.
Lots of secrets. And it's, I think, this sounds so cold, and I hate to say it like this. I mean, in the end, it's a business, right? And there are so many ways that I wish that we could be saying, like, you need to support people in this way. You would like to still see this happen, whatever it is.
Right.
Like, I think that is the hardest part. Like, in the end, like, there is someone, like, I'm reporting to where, like, their money has to be made.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is really something, it can kind of get mixed up in all of those things. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think I saw it right after Simi LitCon, where there was a lot of like, I want to defend myself, but there was also a lot of like, I don't need to. I don't need to. My actions will always speak louder than my words, and it was hard to see people that I had crafted relationships with, but then I also realized, like, but this is how we made our relationship, right?
Yes.
Like, we went to things together, or we commented on things together, or we bonded over, and I need to let them have that. It's not, again, right, it's not an attack on me, and it's fair criticism.
Yes.
It's just really fucking hard to digest, especially when you've put so much love and care into something, and sometimes we get things wrong, and there was a lot of like, I just want to scream, and I was like, you know what, you just have to take a step back and let it go. Where like, as a reader before, I would have been like, blah, 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 but like, they're like, we're just, that's not, because now I have people that are, that report to me, that like their lives and their livelihood is depends on me and what I'm saying, and now we have this huge convention that authors are counting on me to, like, you know, so it's, you have to think about like the much bigger picture sometimes, and sometimes it's really hard because some things go against some things that are not okay with us, but
I understand that, because I remember seeing all of that, and I felt for you very protective, and I always, like, I mean, I don't know, I'm gonna just say, like, I love you, and I think what you do is like absolutely incredible, and I admire you so much. I think what you do is just this is why I'm here, right? And I'm so grateful for everything that you do, so I just want to say that. And so seeing that from my perspective was also really tough, especially when we don't see other similar things get the same amount of criticism. And you know, it's so easy just to not take a beat and just say whatever you want online and not realize, like, there are humans behind everything that's going on here. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't express your opinion, and you're totally correct. Like, not everything we do is 100% right all the time. Feedback is really important. As Estelle, who works at Forever, I'm always looking at that to figure out what we can do better. Also, can't always comment on everything. You know, it is really hard, and I think it comes with time, being able to really just take a step back and realizing what is the right thing to comment on, but also, like, you saw all of that and turning into action in your own way if you felt it was the right thing for what you do and your mission. It's tough. It's really stressful.
All of that to say that we do love what we do.
Absolutely. I mean, but with everything you love, like, you're harder on it because you love it, right? And also, we want to do really well at these things. And we know there are so many people who are looking and who are invested.
And I think, too, because there's, like, an extra added layer of, like, you have people who are counting on you. And especially with, and, you know, we talk about this all the time, but, like, Forever has always been imprint, or, and I can't say always, but since I've paid attention, that, like, is being, what's the word?
I can fill it in, but I don't want to speak for you.
Intentional. That's the word.
Okay.
It's very intentional about the way that you handle arcs, you handle who gets the books, you handle who is part of your influencer program, your authors. Like, there is so much intentionality behind it that other people are not doing. And so, again, right, like, you have people who are counting on what we do, and that also adds an extra layer of, you know,
I mean, being intentional takes extra time and care. And as you know, and I think it's always going to be a really important part of our mission.
Agreed.
Whether I'm there or not.
Yeah.
I think that's really true about Forever and the team there.
Yeah.
And that is the thing I would rather concentrate on over anything.
Agreed.
And it's so funny because I don't know if we've talked about this, but recently we've been getting a lot of emails about people who are upset about us being intentional. That's an email I will always take time to respond to, actually. And that's another one where it's like, I know people could take a screenshot of this at any time and share it. And so I am very careful, and I take a lot of time and care with those emails.
Yeah.
It is not like a blanketed email that I send to everyone who writes that to me. I really do take time to be personal, but also say, we're not changing the way that we do this.
Yeah.
This is the way we're going to continue going on.
I think another imprint, I think it was a Penguin romance imprint, just recently got some hate, honestly, because they did the same thing. They had like minimum requirements for who could apply to their influencer program, but it was waived for BIPOC individuals, and people were not happy with that.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And it's so interesting because when building Steamy LitCon is not for white folks, I'm gonna say it.
Right. Absolutely.
Are you welcome? Yes, but right? Like, you need to know that this is a safe space for Black and brown people. And if that's not something that you can provide, really, there's no space for you here.
Yeah.
But also, I am prioritizing those people. And from a reader's perspective, I mean, I had dealt with authors before, but it was really fucking hard to read some of the things that we received as a team, because we didn't accept authors, because we prioritized BIPOC folks. And it was like, do you, like, not to say it, but like, do you see how we felt our whole life, my girl? This is probably the first space that you have not been welcome to, and you don't know how to act. Imagine if your whole life had been like that. And it was really eye-opening to see that, like, wow, white privilege. You know, and I think we're seeing it again, right, with programs like yours, programs like this Penguin imprint, who are being more intentional about prioritizing folks that are not white, and people are interesting.
People are interesting. I think, you know, when we see programs or anyone who is just like very focused on creators who have really strong audience, like astronomical numbers versus a real mix, I just never understand that strategy, especially when we see what the algorithm is doing to marginalized creators. If you're in this space and you're working in social media or marketing at all, or I mean, even in publicity, I think it's really important to be aware of all of these things. Because it's really going to, I think, set you on your journey of how you're going to best support your author, or how you're going to talk with readers, or do anything. I think us being publicity and marketing at the same time really helps see that broader picture, where I see in other groups where publicity and marketing is separate, which is usual, like, they're not really seeing that picture together. And I think I wish that was a little bit more married, because those things are going to just continue to happen unless that is better. And I feel a big thing that our group does is try to educate about all of these things. And we always, you know, like, education means repeating things many, many times, as we know in romance, right? So I think that's something that we just try to share with all of the people who are working in social and in marketing or in publicity, like at Hachette in general, because, you know, if we want other accounts and to be able to grow, we have to actually be really thoughtful in the mixture of people that we're working with. And I mean mixture of people with different like audience counts and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's hard out there. I think like publishing really, because it's so lean, and this is all just coming from my perspective of the industry, right? We put a lot on people to handle multiple jobs, and it's hard to do things. Perfect is not, I mean, I have a whole like perfect like therapy situation I probably have to figure out. But to do things right and right by people, it's hard to do that when you're being pulled in so many directions. And I really wish that the industry powers that be would really see that, because we could be doing so much more to nurture so many different ways if the people behind the scenes had a little bit more support or help or any of those things.
And I think this happens a lot with, I mean, not only multi-million-dollar companies, but I think you kind of see it in both spectrums. You see it in like small businesses, you see it in multi-million-dollar companies. Like small businesses can't put more money into hiring more people, and then multi-million-dollar businesses just get greedy and like won't, like they're like, you're producing just fine, so like why should I bring another person? But also, I used to work in athletics, and it happened in athletics all the time. Like I used to be able to do the work of 3 people, and so when they had to replace me, they were like, no one can keep up. And I was like, that's because you needed more than one person. And like, yeah, you will get lucky and get that one person that can operate like me, that can do all of these things, but like not every time. And some people work at different paces, and some people process things differently, and so like you also have to be able to adapt to that. And like, I mean, you can let go of a couple of millions to like be able to support your staff, because at the end of the day, you're gonna be producing much better if you have the right support. So like, to the powers that be, please fund the people.
Send it out there into the universe. I mean, I think also it's, a book is a product, but a book is also art, and there are people behind that art. And I like mentor a few people at work, and I am always trying to say, like, in the end, we're all just people here. And there's this like silly Muppet quote that means nothing, like people's is people's, and it's just like so silly and means nothing, but I just think about it all the time, because I think sometimes we forget about the people behind the product.
Agreed.
And that is like, you, as in my role, in your role, you can't forget that there are people, because you are hearing from them and you are seeing them with readers, or you are, you know, trying to make things work right for the way that they want, or they're going through something, and that means like shuffling around, you know, your plans for a book campaign. You can't forget that there are people behind them. And I do, that reminder is important. That reminder is really important. The people were there, the people who are working behind the product, the people who have created the product. And of course the book is, it really is art. And I think that's the hardest thing to even just talk about with anyone. Like, I don't know. It's like the value placed on this art, especially in romance.
Ooh, we could talk about that for hours.
I know, we could.
And I think this goes to readers too, right? Like, I think we often, and anybody, but like, we see it a lot at book signings. We see it a lot when we're asking things of authors. Like, we forget that like they are a person, and that like, no, they can't sign for 8 hours straight. Like, no, they can't. Like, digital signatures are fine. Like, your book is still autographed. You know, like, do you rather them digitally sign or never write a book again because their health has deteriorated so bad? Like, but also just care for them as a person. Like, there's like and I remember Pam from Source Books one time told me, like, you're putting a lot of like person back into this, and it's something that like she really appreciated. And I'm like, because we're all fucking people.
Absolutely.
Like, and you know, sometimes we're in the thick of it. I think it's often forgotten. But reminders like that, I think, are really important, because without them, we're not here. So you know.
And I think with romance, because everybody feels so close to each other, like the level of access just feels very different. And I think that's something for like everybody to really think about. And, you know, having boundaries doesn't necessarily mean, like, it's not bad. It's a good thing to have, and people will understand, and your like art will still affect people the same way. And, you know, readers on the other side need to understand that, you know, authors need time. There's a lot going on in their heads, you know, like it's just very fascinating to me as I watch all of these things start to happen. As, you know, I've watched in the past 8 years, you know, someone like Abby, who, I mean, I started with her with the friend zone, and just watching what that journey has been like, and how we've had to pivot in so many ways. Like, as she's grown.
Right.
Someone like Kennedy, who, after Before I Let Go came out November, like 2 years ago, that everything changed for her career too.
Right.
It's really been like so fascinating. And then going back to, we need time in our jobs also because they're creative, to be able to sit back and reflect on those things and what that means and knowing exactly how to pivot.
So have you found a hobby?
Have I found a hobby?
That's not reading.
Yeah, I think gardening actually has kind of been my thing. We just moved into a house like 3 years ago now. Actually, we're almost I know it. Like the pandemic has really messed with my sense of time.
Yeah,
that is why. But yeah, I love gardening, and now we're at gardening time, and that has been strange and lovely because I have this memory of me helping my mom garden when I was a kid, and I saw a worm, and I was like, oh, a worm, and then I panicked, screamed, and threw it up in the air and ran away, and then I never gardened again until I was an adult, and yeah, it gives me a lot of peace, and this fly as well, it's great.
Have you found the worm again?
What?
Have you found a worm again?
Oh, many worms. But also, gardening is a great way to listen to audiobooks.
Yes, it is.
And listening to audio, even though, yes, this is still going back to books, as it all does, it feels different. Like, it's just such a different experience to me as someone who listens to, like, a lot of podcasts and everything. So, I think listening to an audiobook and also gardening has been really lovely.
Nice.
And hiking. We do a lot of, like, nature walks. My husband loves birds. So we go, like, he looks at birds and I take a lot of pictures. And I feel like
birds?
just of nature. I'm not good at bird photography. But I do want to get better at that.
Bird photography?
No. Photography in general.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful. I think photography, it's like, I feel like there's something so special about the way that someone can capture something, like, through their lens. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of want to read that book. I don't know, someone falling in love with the photographer. I'm sure it's out there, but
I think it is.
Yeah.
And not to bring it back to book events, but that's sort of why I like to take photos at book events, because I like capturing those moments. Yeah. And I just think it's so much fun. And I feel like a little Disney photographer, and I get really excited.
Okay, going back to Disney.
Okay.
You're going on a Disney cruise?
I am going on a Disney cruise.
Is it your first?
No.
Okay.
I'm actually going to be like a platinum cruise person with this cruise.
Okay.
So we went on a few when I was a kid, and then for our honeymoon, we actually went on the same ship. So I'm very excited. I really get to shut my cell phone off for like at least 3 days.
Lovely.
And no one can talk to me, and I think that's going to be fabulous. I really need a social media break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of had one when I was in Peru. Like, I just kind of.
Oh, I know.
Off.
I noticed
like I would post pictures.
Your ring too was like kind of measuring. I've been really into it.
My ring. Okay. Well, then
Do I need one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I came back on on Friday, and like it was like. It's fine. That's what happens when you have 3 dogs and diarrhea.
And planning an event with goats the next day.
Goats was great. What do you think about the goats?
I thought it was so unique and fabulous, and everyone was so happy.
The goats really were soothing.
People were. We've been looking for. I was just like looking back in my email on our way here to see if I could find the first email I wrote to you about the goats, because I was like, that needs to be part of our social media content. We were really looking forward to it for a long time, and people are not going to stop talking about it.
No.
I mean, we mentioned it in literally every meeting, and then even my husband was like, so there's a goat in the book? I was like, no, there's no goat in Just for the Summer. It's from part of your world, actually. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, we don't even know why there's goats at this point, but
it's fine.
It's fine. I mean,
maybe we'll get some more in the next book.
I feel like we just need goats at every event now.
Absolutely.
Don't tell Alyssa.
I'm not telling her. I'm not saying anything.
But they weren't that bad. I only saw one poop. There was some pee, but
I did. Yeah.
There was. I mean, it was not. I thought it was okay. Well,
you saw
Emma,
one.
my goat, was.
You only saw one.
Oh, I only saw one. There was more poop. Okay. Well,
it's all great.
Alyssa's
gonna go on a very long vacation.
Yeah, she probably needs to. What are you reading?
What am I reading? That's a great question. I'm reading a forever book, Hot Hex Boyfriend by Carly Bloom. It comes out in September. it's a lot of fun, and I have been a big fan of Carly Bloom. She wrote a cowboy series for us a few years ago, and it's one that I have really like keep telling people to read. And this is her first book in a while, which is there's a frog, there's sisters, there's a curse. It's very fun. So I'm reading that.
At what point in the like acquiring process do you read the book for the person you will be publicist for?
Oh, it really depends.
Okay.
There are sometimes we get to read it before we acquire the book.
Okay.
But then it also ends up changing by the time you get it. Like we have a book, I'll Have What He's Having by Adib Khorram that comes out at the end of August.
That one sounds so great.
Yeah, queer romance, very like foodies, Kansas City. There's Muppet references, which is lovely because Adib is a huge Muppet fan, which we found out on the call that we had with him before we bought his book.
Okay.
He had like a Muppet. Oh, he had a Kermit mug, I think. And I stopped, I was being professional, Estelle, as I tend to be anyway, and he had the Muppet mug, and I was like, what? And then he showed me, he had this, like, stamp collection framed that was, like, a Muppet thing, and I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but this is amazing. So, and then we ended up getting the book, not because of the Muppets, but it's been a lovely thing to talk to him about, which I guess Muppets is one of my side hobbies, sure. Where was that going? Oh, right. So I had read that pretty early.
Okay.
And then I just finished reading like what most people will see.
Okay.
And it was definitely different than what I had remembered. So that was kind of interesting. But usually for books that were assigned, like as soon as the galley comes in, which is hopefully like 6 to 7 months before the book comes out, like that's usually when I'm starting to read things. I mean, we know romance comes out. There's so many books.
Right.
We work on a lot of books, so that's basically the best schedule.
Does the publicity marketing team, is it ever part of the acquiring process?
Us talking with the author, or yeah, sometimes. Like there are sometimes that we are asked to put together a marketing and publicity plan, so that's a little bit of a hard thing to do because sometimes you have some material to look at, sometimes you don't.
Right.
And then sometimes, like with the Adib example, like we'll have a call with him beforehand. I would say like the earlier calls with the marketing and publicity team and the authors happened a lot more during the pandemic, which sort of makes sense. But we are asked to put together some bullet points and maybe jump on a phone call every now and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is a title or a few titles that are coming out in the next year you're excited about?
Oh my gosh. I always love that question, and my authors are like, when anyone asks me anything like that, every book goes out of my head, and I'm like, yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
Anytime someone's like, what's your favorite book, or what are you reading? I'm like, I don't read. What are you talking about?
I'm like, first of all, what month are we in?
Yeah. Also, like, what's books?
I know, what are books? I would say Hers for the Weekend by Helena Greer comes out in August. Helena is one of my favorite, like, even if I wasn't working this job, I would say this is true. She's one of my favorite newer authors. So this is the third book in a series, but you don't have to read them in order at all. Actually, I think you should start with this one if you haven't read her before, but it's a sapphic road trip fake relationship. They are going up to this like Christmas resort basically to she's gonna see her ex get married, and so she recruits this like tattooed baker to come with her and pretend to be her girlfriend, even though she's always had a crush on her. It is low spice, high angst, and
I fucking love it.
it also is it is set in December, which I sort of loved, and they do all of the fun road trip things, and then they go up when they get to this resort. It's basically like found family. It's sort of like Island of the Misfit Toys, where this is a place where so many different people have flocked and become close to each other, and I think Helena just did such a beautiful job with that, and it's really her best book in the series, so I'm really excited about that one.
Is there one bed?
I think there might be one bed.
I feel like
at one point there is one bed, I believe. Yes.
I feel like road trips always
yes.
end up with, like, there has to be. I'm still waiting for someone to go on a road trip with me, and there's only one bed. But
I want this to happen for you. We're going to
me
manifest
too.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing the Abby, for those who weren't there yesterday, Abby said her plot walker, right?
Yes.
She has a friend that's a plot walker with her.
It was a reader, I think. It was
a reader.
Yes.
It was a reader.
The plot walker was something else.
Yeah, so the reader has kept the book, what was it?
It was the friend zone.
The friend zone under her pillow all of these years to manifest that like she will get like someone like the hero. And when she came to meet Abby at the event she was at a couple of days ago, she brought the person she met that's like the hero, and
they had just gotten engaged too.
Yeah, so like
it happened.
For all of us out there, sleep with your favorite book boyfriend under your pillow.
Yes. So it was someone on Abby's team who now was sleeping with Life's Too Short under her pillow because she brought in an Adrian. So I think that's where it all came from. Yeah.
So I am going to put all of Kennedy Ryan's books under my pillows.
Okay, perfect.
And just a combination of them would be fine. Like,
yeah.
I mean, or white shoes. Like, whatever. I just, it's fine. But that's what
I love
I'm doing
it
from now on.
I think that's perfect advice. I'm excited.
Okay, so Helena, anything else?
I'm thinking.
Have you read Abby's upcoming?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Soon. Oh my god, can I look at my phone really quick?
Yeah,
sorry everybody.
You can always look at
your phone. Too many books out there. What are you excited about?
I don't know. What are
well,
books?
Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto.
Oh, please.
I know. I mean, I feel like everyone has heard of this book already, but I have to talk about it because it's absolutely amazing.
It's beautiful.
It became kind of my comfort read where I would take, there was a butterfly outside. How lovely. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Hello. Have you ever wanted to make love to a violin? I introduced you to Julie Soto, who will make you want to make love to a violin.
Yes.
That book was so beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
I texted her right after it and I was like, I can't even handle this right now. Like, I want to have a threesome with the violin and the main character and like just all of them, honestly. And she was like, this is the only threesome I would be okay with. And I was like, okay. Julie has a thing with threes, like against threes. She doesn't like threes though. She doesn't like threesomes in her books. I can't remember the story, but anyway.
I don't know this detail about her. So.
Oh, you should ask her.
I will.
On your
will
next email,
yes.
The subject should be threesomes ?
Perfect.
And she's gonna be like, Melissa, what the fuck?
Love it. Yeah, the book is so fantastic. It was obviously super sexy and amazing, but
it was sensual. That's what
was.
It was.
It really
like,
was.
I wouldn't even say sexy, just like intimate, sensual, like, no, truly, like, you're gonna want to make love to the book.
But can I just like say this is also probably speaking to who I am as a person, which maybe doesn't even make any sense after I say it, but the fact that he like started to show up early to show her that he like was into her.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the sexiest thing I've ever seen. As someone who's perpetually late for everything, I don't know where, it was just the effort.
Yeah.
That I was like, what a moment.
Right.
And it literally happens in 3 seconds, and I'm probably the only one who is really fixated on it. But I think that's what I love about Julie's work, right? There are those little moments.
Yeah.
It was so great.
Do we know can you talk about what her next book is yet? Or
I can't talk about it.
Oh.
But we will be announcing something really soon.
Okay.
Really soon.
Okay.
Yeah. I think people are going to be extremely excited.
Can
yes.
I bring goats?
I think it has nothing to do with goats.
Okay.
I would tell you what I think you would need to bring, but then everyone would know what I was talking about. And
okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Next.
Am I still thinking about books I'm excited to talk about?
If you want to.
Let me just talk about One Last Summer really quickly by Kate Spencer.
You know what? I saw the cover and I was like, this is gonna destroy me.
Oh yeah. Oh, for us?
Yeah.
Oh sure.
I was
actually, I think she wrote it about me. Everybody, like, pretty sure. No, I don't think that's true. But it's basically about like a 35-year-old woman who is feeling so overworked at her job. And her very young boss is basically like, you need to go on a sabbatical right now. And she does not want to go on the sabbatical, but she does. So she goes up to her like old camp, which is a place she felt so much comfort and love when she was a kid, right? And she's gonna regroup, and she reunites with her friends, and she reunites with this guy that she's always had a crush on and has, I think, like kissed once when she was 16.
That is the best connection. Rekindling.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to request it right now.
It's really a fantastic read. I loved it so much, and I cried the entire time. And also there's like a letter to her younger self that she's sort of like using as this checklist.
Oh.
And I just keep thinking of that, like, is that play about us, right? Like that whole TikTok thing. I was like, how can I possibly make any TikToks about this where people really don't think this is about me? Because I don't even know. Like, it just is really, I think, a really thoughtful look at burnout, which I think, especially post-pandemic or wherever we are, is something I haven't really read about in a book. And I always delight when we have characters who are 35 and up.
Yeah.
Really excited that in Adib's I'll Have What He's Having, the characters are 35 and 37, and
Oh,
they're
I
also
love that.
going through these like career journeys. And I think that goes back to what we were just saying earlier, like, you know, I think so many people equate romance with sex, like the genre
Right.
with sex, but like watching in One Last Summer, the Kate Spencer book, and in I'll Have What He's Having, it's just like these self journeys that these characters are kind of going on alongside each other to really like find what makes them happy.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with each other, even though they're having great sex while they're doing it.
Right.
To me, it just makes the genre so special.
I agree. Okay, one last question.
Okay.
Fuck, marry, kill.
Oh gosh. Okay.
I don't know if I want to make it harder. No, that's fine. Fuck.
Don't make it harder.
Fuck, marry, kill any trope.
Okay. We're gonna kill reality show.
Okay.
We are going to. Oh gosh, this is so hard. I'm like, what's a trope? It's going great. I think marry Grumpy Sunshine. And fuck, I guess enemies to lovers.
Yeah,
works.
yeah. For me, it's usually fuck, like, ex-boyfriend's dad type thing.
Okay, that's definitely. I have less experience reading those, so yeah.
I thought you were
I'll
gonna say,
need
I have
some
less
reps.
experience. And I'm like, no, me too. I don't have any experience, but I want to.
I said
Unfortunately-
reading those.
Yeah,
Reading
yeah.
those.
Unfortunately, none of my exes have hot dads, so here we are. Anyway, I guess I would say I would definitely marry Second Chance. Yeah, that's as a Cancer. Wait, the one last question.
Oh yeah.
What are your signs?
I'm Aquarius.
Okay,
I don't know the rest.
Okay.
I know nothing else.
Okay.
I'm so bad.
that's okay.
Does this explain anything about me?
Not to me. But
Okay.
I think people always want to know. So. Yeah. Okay. Everyone's nodding. So
Perfect.
I'm
Great.
just like,
Awesome.
cool. I just like to ask. Okay. Well,
Great.
thank you, Estelle.
Oh, thank you. You're the best.
You're the best. Oh, also, how are you?
I don't know. I'm doing really great because I'm here with you. And I get to see this beautiful thing that you've created
Thank you.
a second time around. So I'm really happy.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.